Fat is a three-letter word that provokes intense negative reaction. The fat that is harmful, the worst kind, is called visceral fat. Turns out when you have temperatures, you turn on your brown fat. Your brown fat is like click, 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 whoosh. Good fat fights bad fat. You will shape shift lean muscle to fat ratio, so you'll wind up actually being in better body composition shape. It's kind of like the modern day cigarette. It's not good for you. Every study that's ever been done shows that drinking a lot of associated with really, really negative health outcomes. How do I, eat healthier? What should I do? I always tell people, I said, number one, don't be afraid of walking in cool weather. I'm not talking about a blizzard, snowmageddon. Don't be safe. But if it's cool outside, the fall, even in the winter, get the right shoes, go for a walk, because cold temperatures do something amazing to burn down harmful body fat. Cold air shock, which is received by the thermostats on our body, will immediately trigger something called brown fat. Brown fat is a special kind of fat. It's distinct from white fat. So there's two colors of fat. So think about, you go to the hardware store, you got a paint job in your house, and you're going to do two colors on one color on each wall. You're going to paint one brown and one white. All right. So you just pick two cans of paint. Well, this is actually how Mother Nature designed body fat. The fat that is harmful, that you can see and that actually packs the tubes of our body that are inflammatory, that is white fat. The worst kind is called visceral fat. It builds up. Even in a skinny body, you can have a ton of visceral fat. Viscera meaning guts. This is the kind of fat that basically turns like a baseball glove, wraps around your organs. It's very, very inflammatory. It can leak fat. It's kind of dangerous fat, actually. And it's the stuff that pooches out your belly, and it spills off over to the side, and you get like the muffin top and all that kind of stuff. So turns out when you have cold temperatures, you turn on your brown fat. Your brown fat is like a gas range, because it undergoes thermogenesis. It generates heat. You're confronted with cold, your body wants to be heat. So it wants heater. So it's a space heater. Think about like the gas range of your kitchen. You turn on the knob, click, 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 whoosh. Got a flame. All right. Now in the kitchen, that flame is being fed. The gas range is being fed from the gas lines that go to your town, or maybe a gas tank by the side of your house, drawing down the energy. In your body, the brown fat that is the space heater, click, 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 whoosh, with cold temperature, actually be drawing the fuel from the brown fat, draws the fuel from the white fat. Good fat fights bad fat. And brown fat, by the way, is not wiggly jiggly. It is wafer thin, and it's plastered around our neck. It's a little bit underneath our breastbone, a little bit between our shoulder blades, and a little bit scattered in our gut. My point being, go for a walk after dinner. You're exercising. You're actually going to be working your muscles. You're going to, and if you don't be afraid of cool air, because you're actually going to accelerate the burn down of extra calories. All these things will actually allow you to tip the balance for more muscle, less fat, and you can accentuate that. You can be as exaggerated as you want, but if you keep doing that kind of stuff, burn down extra harmful body fat, build up more muscle, you will shape shift your own lean muscle to fat ratio. So you'll wind up actually in being in better body composition shape. The reality is that body fat, which most people associate with weight gain, and you want to lose fat for weight loss, actually is actually a really, really beneficial thing. And I think by first letting people know, to manage your weight, you are not really trying to get rid of all your fat. You got to separate those things. Body fat is really important. The cells that make up body fat are called adipocytes. Adipose is the name for adipose tissue, is what we call as a medical word for fat. Adipocytes, those are the cells that make up fatty tissue, actually serve an incredible role, healthy role in the body. And a lot of people don't know this, but our fat cells, adipocytes, are the fuel tanks for our energy that we need to just go about our day. Forget about running a marathon. I'm just talking about like getting to work or doing your laundry or, making a meal. You need energy to be able to do any of those things. You need energy to be able to take a shower. So what I want people to know, if they're really interested in this whole idea of fat and weight loss, is don't curse your fat. You need that fat. It is something that you need to have the right amount of. Too much fat is a real problem, and it can actually lead to the situation where you need to actually lose weight and do weight management.
There's a connection between the brain and body fat, and it's connected through the nerves. Here's something really, really interesting, and this does bridge a little bit to foods that fight body fat. But it turns out that when we're eating food, okay, the taste of the food that we have in our taste buds naturally go to our brain, right? So everyone can remember, have a memory of a favorite smell of a food that came from their mother's kitchen as they were growing up, right? That's comfort food. It's a smell that takes us back to something that we grew up with and find comforting. Well, so you already know that there is some connection between food and our brain. But those signals have to pass through our nose and our taste buds. And it tells you that there's wiring that connects our mouth to our brain. That's the first start to signal that there's some mouth-brain connection. But did you know that our brain, the nerves that come out of our brain, actually course down our neck, on both sides of our neck, and they actually go to our body fat? All right. So when we stimulate our mouth with different kinds of foods, they do text message our brain, and then our brain releases other signals and hormones that communicate with our body fat, good and bad. All right. And it changes the neurotransmitters in our brain as well. So there's also direct impact on what actually happens in our brain. And by the way, those nerves continue beyond our body fat down to our gut, our lower gut, where our gut microbiome is. And of course, with Zoe and all these other really fantastic scientific programs that are going on, we're beginning to realize more and more just how important our gut microbiome, healthy gut bacteria is. So you're talking about the gut-brain connection, and that gut-brain connection goes from, the tailpipe of our gut all the way, but it starts in our mouth, it goes to our brain, and it can affect how our brain goes. I want to tell you one more thing that, from my perspective as a researcher, where this could affect the size of our brain as well.
Please.
Okay. We used to think that the human body is unable to regenerate, right? Because when we were kids, I'm sure, Sarah, and you, even though we went to different grade schools, kindergartens, I'm sure your teacher and my teacher said the same thing. Starfish can regenerate, salamanders can regenerate, but humans cannot regenerate, right? That's what we learned. Not true. Not true anymore. That chapter in that textbook has been ripped out and thrown out the window. We know, in fact, that humans do regenerate. And we've started to figure out that our stem cells, 70 million stem cells in our bodies, actually contribute silently behind the scenes to regenerating our health. We don't even know that our liver needs a little regeneration. Oh, you had that weekend where you had a little bit too much to drink? Guess what? Silently, your body sends out those stem cells to repair. You drink a little too much alcohol, your brain shrinks. You got to regenerate that. So even the brain, we now know, has a capability of regeneration. And this is actually a dynamic process that happens every single day behind the scenes. So one hypothesis of why excess body fat might actually impact on brain size could be the impairment of our stem cells to be able to help maintain the rejuvenation, the renewal, the support of the structure and revitalization, the regeneration of our brain tissue itself. We don't know this for a fact, but it's a scientific hypothesis that our brain actually has to be maintained in its size. You don't keep replenishing it with healthy cells. It will naturally start to shrink.
There are foods you can eat that will do the same thing that cold air does. It'll trigger your brown fat. It'll turn on the switch to set your internal space heater on so that you go click, 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 whoosh, and now you got to draw down fuel from your harmful body fat. So protein will actually make you full a little bit faster. Fiber will make you feel fuller sooner, which then counters your maybe instinctive desire to actually eat more and more. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't think about, and I'll talk about some specifics in all these categories, is water, liquid. Okay, when you drink water, pour your glass of water and put it in front of your plate so you're looking at it, and have a few sips of water before you dive into your meal. So number one, hydration is key for overall health. It's underrated. Number two, just having a couple of sips of water puts the water in your stomach, and your stomach is just a bag. It's a sack. Well, that's what happens when you sip some water. You're actually filling the bag of your stomach with some water, but it stretches. And as when your stomach stretches, it sends a signal to your brain, oh, you got a little food in there. We're gonna start signaling pretty soon that there's food. And when you actually have enough food, your brain will say, you have enough satiety. Let's stop. So liquid, water, hydration, non-alcohol, which is carbs. Okay. And if you have coffee or tea, it's fine, but not with dairy and not with sugar or artificial sweeteners. Those things will actually mess up your metabolism. So plain tea, black coffee is a great way, or with some plant-based milk could be fine. Those are practical ways to actually help you get a little bit more full when you sit down. Beans are, my friend Dan Buettner, who's well known for shedding light on the blue zones where people live a long time, really, really old and really, really healthy. He always likes to say, beans are my favorite food. Beans are the common foods that everyone in every culture that lives for a long time, these blue zones, people are eating beans. Beans are really healthy. Great source of protein, which helps to make you full. The fiber also makes you full. And it doesn't make you only full for that meal that you're eating the beans. It makes you full going into your next meal as well. Right? So if you have some beans for lunch, that's a great way to actually manage your satiety or give you some head start in satiety for dinner time. So that's you're eating for the next meal, which is another little trick for it. So I think those are just some ways to actually approach what foods would be useful for satiety.
Now look, chocolate's a confection, so it's a candy. So I want to be really careful to make this distinction. Dark chocolate is better because it has more cacao. Cacao is a plant-based food. It comes from a cacao pod, which comes off a tree, and it is very much packed with dietary fiber, which is good for our gut microbiome, good for overall health, but it has polyphenols called proanthocyanidins, okay? So, for your listeners and viewers, don't worry if you can't pronounce or spell these things. Let people like me who study food as medicine do the heavy lifting for you, but just know that dark chocolate, plant-based, has more of the plant-based cacao, has these bioactives. Now, what does proanthocyanins do? These dark chocolate polyphenols, cocoa polyphenols, they call out stem cells. In fact, there was a study done out of San Francisco and the University of Texas that showed that in 60-year-old men with coronary heart disease, bad blood vessels, bad hearts, that if they drank 2 cups of dark hot cocoa that is really enriched with polyphenols, they could double the number of stem cells in their bloodstream that can repair their circulation and improve their heart function after 30 days. So if you just drank 2 cups a day for a month, that's how this experiment was done. And then they measured the number of stem cells in the blood. That's a blood test. Bada bing, twice. All right. Then they measured functionally how resilient their circulation was. That's using a test called FMD, flow-mediated dilation. How resilient are your circulation? That also doubled. That's how powerful your stem cells can actually be. And there's a whole other list of foods as well. Dried fruit, because the skin of fruits contain ursolic acid. Ursolic acid, which is found in the skin of fruits. Dried fruits, you get a lot more skin per unit that you put in your mouth, right? So this is why it's better to, if you're going to get for the skin of the fruit, to get organic fruits, because the skin tends to accumulate the pesticides. It's very hard to wash them off.
You can imagine overeating, putting more fuel into your tank is just going to blow up your fat mass, which is how overeating causes weight gain, because and then you can see it in the mirror, okay? The key thing about this is not to overconsume. There's a Japanese saying called harahachi bu or harahachi bonmi, which just means that when you're eating, stop when you're 80% full. I translate that like, I have no idea what's 80%. Okay. But what I say is that you eat, savor your food and eat mindfully, thoughtfully, and stop eating when you're satisfied, not when you're feeling full. We are trained from as kids, and you, especially you're at work, you're busy and you got to wolf stuff down. We're trying to eat as fast as we can. And what happens when you eat really fast, you could easily overconsume. You trick your brain because you're loading food faster than you can process it. But if you actually eat slowly, and what happens is that, when you savor your food, you realize, you know what? I'm quite satisfied now. I don't think I need it anymore. Put less fuel in your body. You'll actually gain less weight. And it has to be countered by move more. So by staying physically active, you're burning the fuel down. So it's kind of like watching how much gas you put in your car, but making sure you're driving the car as well. Okay. And if you didn't do either, all you'd be doing is filling up more fuel tanks and putting jerry cans of gas in your trunk, loading up your garage, and then you're letting the car sit there. You're going to wind up accumulating weight. That's actually what happens to many people over the course of their life. And this is not an issue of a couple of months. I'll tell you some simple things that I think are important to recognize as reasons that people overeat and simple things that you can do to not overeat. Number one, when you eat alone, it's easiest to overeat. Eating alone is easiest to overeat. You know why? Because we usually distract ourselves when we eat by ourselves. You whip out your phone and you're scrolling through stuff, either looking through social, checking your emails, watching the news, or whatever it is you're doing. The moment you have that mobile device in your hand while you're eating, you're not paying attention to your body. You're not paying attention to what's on the plate. You're just shoveling it down. So what I would say, eat with company. That's what they do with, in lots of countries with healthier eating habits. You eat together. And don't be distracted. Put your phone away. It's not just for politeness. It's really, don't be distracting. And then what you do is you savor your food. I refuse categorically to eat something that I don't want to eat. I'd rather not eat, honestly, than just eat something that like I don't want. Well, if I'm, and I think that that's okay. You're not going to shrivel up and die, blow away if you don't eat something. But if you don't eat if you then say I'm going to eat only what I want, now you have the ability to savor your food.
So is sugar bad? No, your brain needs sugar normally. Your body will make sugar normally if you don't get enough of it from your diet. And fruits and vegetables, even ones that are not very sweet, have sugar in it. Sure, a summer peach has a lot of sugar. Watermelon has a lot of sugar. But, broccoli also has a fair amount of sugar, natural sugars in it as well. Those are all super good for you, not because of the sugar, but because those calories that you're getting are high value calories, right? You have all these other polyphenols and dietary fiber, all the bioactives from the fruit that counterbalance the potential detriment of whatever sugar it is. So I always say when it comes to produce, fruits and vegetables, if you're eating normal, healthy amounts that are good for your taste buds, a healthy part of a balanced meal, don't worry about the sugar in them. If you have normal blood sugar control, like if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, maybe that's something to be more careful about. You want to talk to a nutritionist or dietitian about. But I think for most people, it's fine. Now, what about added sugar? Well, just like, fat, too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. Added sugar, which is what we started this conversation about. Well, what about soda? A lot of added sugar in a typical can of soda, like 9 teaspoons full of refined sugar. If I gave you an empty cup, Sarah Ann, and put 9 teaspoons of granulated sugar and said, drink that down, you would be horrified, right? Like I would be. But it turns out that, added sugar is detrimental for your health, but natural sugars in the quantities that you would eat normally in fruits and vegetables are just fine. I think sugar gets vilified. just like the way the fat's gotten vilified. And I think this is where the conversation needs to go. And I'm so glad that you brought this up, Sarah Ann, which is that, look, we should stop taking black and white views. Sugar will cause cancer. Actually, you know what? The something more likely to cause cancer is not sugar, but breathing in the off-gassing for your new carpet or from your at the gas station pump. So these are things that we don't have the same conversation about. Let's try not to vilify our food. Let's try to respect what it is that Mother Nature delivers to us. And let's just make better choices. So fruits and vegetables, sugar is fine. You asked about dried fruit. Look, it is true that you could eat you and I could eat 6 dried apricots pretty quickly, but we would probably not eat 6 whole apricots quite as quickly. We'd be reluctant to eat it. So we would actually be eating more of the sugar in there. And that's why everything in moderation. I would say that eating 6 dried apricots at a sitting is probably in excess. But, having 2 or 3 of them, probably fine if they're part of your fiber-gaining, polyphenol, regenerative kind of snacking pattern. Much better than a bag of chips, crisps that you might actually want to eat, right? So, again, let's try to be a little bit more refined in the choices that we make. We do it all the time, by the way. These difficult choices, what's better for us, what's safer for us, we do that. If you're listening to this and you go skiing in the winter, we all wear the same ski outfits and we have the same skis, but you're going to make a decision of which track you're going to go down that mountain. You're going to go the green, the blue, or the black diamond, And so I think that everyone can make better choices as a way of confronting food.
Foods that we tend to think of as not so good for you lure us into the bear trap of assigning black and white thinking to good and bad food. The food is either great for you or it's terrible for you. No such thing. I think everything in moderation is a good way to go, and that brings me to my point about the guardrails. I think that if you generally say you're going to stay in the center of the lane, you're not going to go to any border, or you're not going to go to any extreme. That is the safest place to be if you want long-term overall health. What I think is important is to know yourself and understand what it is that you enjoy eating. A lot of people haven't spent enough time thinking about, what do I really enjoy eating? Okay, some people will joke around and say, oh, I like French fries. Oh, I like hamburgers. I like, okay, maybe you do like those things, but let's really think about all the foods that are out there. Which ones, this is a kind of a checklist I tell people to go through. What did your mom cook when you were growing up that you remember coming out of the smell kind of your kitchen that brings you close to home? Like what's comfort food to you? Like I'll ask that, and don't say one thing. Like, oh, meatloaf. Say, oh no, okay, good. What are some other ones? And eventually you'll find something that they associate that's actually not so bad for you. In fact, might be really good for you. And that's the unfair advantage I have, is that I know what these healthy foods are. And that's why I put more than 200 foods in my books: Eat to Beat Disease and Eat to Be Your Diet. Like, you want to let me do all the heavy lifting on what are the good foods. And so I think knowing what you enjoy gives you permission. Knowing what you enjoy that's healthy gives you permission to engage in things that are good for you and that you like. That actually alignment that's a bullseye. I call that a bullseye. And you can do that for a long time because you like it. Look, everybody knows you shouldn't be smoking if you want health. All right. There's some clear cut things, like soda is one of those things. Drink a lot of soda, it's not going to be good for you. That's like, soda is kind of like the modern day cigarette. It's not good for you. Every study that's ever been done shows that drinking a lot of soda is associated with really, really negative health outcomes. All right. But every now and then it's a hot day, you're out there on vacation or something, you just like dying for a soda. Go for it. Do it. Just don't do it too much. Get that satisfaction and give yourself permission to, occasionally treat yourself to something. But if you spend most of your time focusing on doing the things that you already enjoy that are good for you, you're going to be very resilient to an occasional off-road adventure. How do I, eat healthier? What should I do? I always tell people, I said, no, number one, life is for the living. I really believe that you should enjoy your life. You know, we're only given one life. It's not that we don't know how long we have. It's unpredictable. You really want to enjoy your life. So first find out what are the things, be honest to yourself. What are the things that you really, really enjoy? And if you have the right kind of way to interrogate yourself, and sometimes you need somebody else to help draw it out of you. And that's what I try to do to my patients. You'll find that some of the things they like are actually quite healthy, and give them positive reinforcement for those things. If you can make a checklist of things that you love that are good for you, you're way ahead of the game.
Hey, if you like that video, then you're going to love this one. Check it out.